Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a continuation from my previous video where I was using the Alice's WonderLand Sampler Quilt book to work on the quilt basically. And if you remember from my previous video, I had a little bit of issue getting the blocks to the correct size. And a lot of you suggested that it was probably my seam allowance that was 1/4 of an inch rather than a scant 1/4 of an inch. So today we are going to master that. We're going to get the scant 1/4 of an inch, and following all of your advice, fingers crossed, the blocks will finish at the correct size. So I've already made 8 of the 100 blocks that are in the quilt. There was one that I've already omitted, so I'll do another one of my favourite ones, so it won't actually be 100 on my quilt. But let me talk you through some of the recommendations that people gave me to achieve the scant 1/4 inch. Now, a lot of you suggested getting a 1/4 inch presser foot, which I don't have, and I thought, well, you can adjust the needle, and what I usually do is adjust the needle to 1/4 of an inch, and I thought that would be fine, but I've been moving it one position over. But I also bought this 1/4 inch, not a 1/4 inch ruler, this scant 1/4 of an inch ruler. It's made by Perkin Dry Goods. That's what it says on there. Yeah, perkindrygoods.com, made in the USA, but I bought this from the UK. And basically what you do is you put it underneath your machine, and this here is a scant 1/4 an inch. So you've got a hole for your needle there. So what I'll do is I'll set this up, and then that will allow me to know what position to change my needle to on my machine. A lot of you also mentioned ironing to make sure that everything is getting smoothed out, ironing before cutting, which I'm not always with. So I'll also be trying that in today's video. But again, one of the most important things that you guys said is thread matters, which I never would have thought was the case. I just use regular Gutman thread on my machine, but it is quite a thick thread. And lots of you recommended the Aurifil, I think it's a 40 weight. So that is what I purchased. Again, everyone also says that with the Liberty being a finer fabric, that this is always a good idea anyway. It isn't an issue with the weight of the fabric, that because I'm combining the Liberty Tana Lawn with Moda Grunge, which is a really good quality cotton, but that's more of a quilting weight cotton. That's not an issue, because in the book Alice mentions that she also uses a quilting weight cotton for the white. She doesn't use Tana Lawn, so it's not the issue of the fabric weight. Perhaps it is the thread, because people were saying you'd be surprised how much room the thread actually takes up. So I'm hoping that these two combined will help my seams become more of a scant 1/4 inch. And I must give a very special mention to Davina at Little Workroom Crafts, who talked me through these. She made a video talking about her book, mentioned she'd watched me, and she purchased both of these. So Davina, this is all on you. So if you haven't already, I will leave a link to Davina's channel down in the description box. She makes such cheerful videos. They're really, really nice. And on a Monday, she uploads a video saying what she's been up to that week, talking you through all of her wonderful crafts, which are great. So as you all know, I craft on my dining room table, if you can't already tell from the background of the video. So I've got a few things out on the table. I'll show you those, and then we'll get set up and get sewing. One thing that I did want to mention is when I was making these blocks previously, there's a lot of removing the block from underneath the sewing machine, cutting, restitching, all of that. And I usually use these thread bunnies as recommended by Kate at the Last Homely House. I have quite a few, but I've decided with this project I'm going to do a leaders and enders quilt, just a simple checkerboard pattern. So I purchased some gorgeous fabric that was pre-cut. It was pre-cut to 9 centimeters. I purchased it off Etsy, and I'll leave the shop down below. But if you're in the UK, Rose Garden Patchwork will be very soon stocking these fabrics. So hold off if you're in the UK, because otherwise you'll have import charges. And I've also then cut a lot of matching fabric that will be my plain. So I've got those set up. So let me show you everything else. We'll get tidied up and we'll go from there. So just here I've got my hexagon quilt that I'm just hand quilting, picking that up on the evening. I've got about a third of it done so far. So here's the table. My partner recently bought me this really big cutting mat so that when I'm doing a sewing day I can just put it out and it'll protect the table, all that type of thing. Here's the leaders and enders project. So it's all in there, and I've got this extra space to put the blocks once they're sewn together. I've recently implemented this little system of having little baskets. So I've got little baskets here. And this is just an English paper piecing project that I've started working on. These are little fabric Polaroids. It's a new pattern that I've recently launched in my Etsy shop. So if you're interested, again, the link for that will be down below. I've got a few here that are just stacked up. Great for using all those precious bits of fabric that have got nice motifs on. I'll put that away because I won't be doing that now. This is my sort of hand sewing tray that is just essentially a mess. And this is what moves from place to place. When I'm doing any type of sewing, I just have everything shoved in here and it just gets moved around from one place to another. Kitchen scissors, we don't need to discuss what they were used for. This is a box of all my Liberty fabric, so I'm going to be pulling from there. These are all just small cuts that I generally buy. They're usually like £1 from the show, one piece each. There's the book and the previous blocks that I've made, and then we've of course just got refreshments, and here is just the mess that is in the living room. I just decided that since I was going to all the effort of changing the thread and messing about, that I'd clean inside my machine. And I thought I did this often. I didn't think it would be anything in there. So let's get all this out. When cleaning your sewing machine, it is best to avoid compressed air because that will push the dust further into your sewing machine. So just clean it with one of these brushes, I find best. So I've set the needle so that the presser foot and the ruler, and then the needle goes in the hole. And I hand cranked the needle down this time. I didn't put it down with the automatic dropper. So yeah. And normally my setting on my machine that I do for my needle position is 2.5, 2.8 if I thought I was doing a scant, but it's not, it's 3. So this should help me master it. So this is a really good tool. I guess it is a use once only thing, but handy to have if I get a different machine, because now I know that it's position 3. I guess if I needed to sew from this side of the presser foot, I could do it again that side as well, just to make sure. Now that's sorted, let's look at what our next pattern is. So I've done that one. I've done that one. So now we're on to the antique tile. So this is our first one. So these are the 2 fabrics that I've chosen. I quite like that. I did say in my previous video that I'm trying to keep it close to the picture, so I think the pink is nice. I don't have anything like that, I already know that, so I think I'll use this one. You probably won't get to see too much of it because that is cut into smaller pieces, but we'll see. If that pink isn't enough, I'll use this pink because I've got just under a fat quarter of that, because I had that for my Liberty bag for the Sew Along festival. And then I've got 1 metre of the Moda Grunge. You do need 6 metres for the pattern, including all of the sashing on the quilt and the border. So it's got a really beautiful border on it, but I only bought 1 metre so that I could spread the cost of everything. And with the Moda Grunge having this little bit of pattern, I don't mind if it's a different dye light or something. I don't know if that happens with fabric, but it's not pure white, so it shouldn't make too much difference. These are the fabrics that you can get in the sample packs from Alice Caroline, so those are the sizes. You can remove this label, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but it is quite a large piece. And then these are the pieces that you get from the Festival of Quilt for £1. Looks like I've already used some from there. So again, these are quite a decent size as well. So let's get making this one. If you're like me and you find this block of information overwhelming and you can't quite figure out what to cut, I've just been highlighting the important parts and it just helps me look at it at a glance. Yeah, I probably will pass this book on to someone else after I've done, but I think even this information is not going to hinder them. It will probably help the next person as well. So that's just a tip. Just use a highlighter, and because sometimes if I look away and then I come back, I'm like, where was I? So a highlighter just helps me pull out the important information. I would say that is a good scant seam there. Isn't this fabric just amazing? So it is quite literally about to be the moment of truth. Is this going to be the 6.5 inches? I really actually enjoyed that block and I love the colour combination. And it's actually a really windy and rainy day today, so it's just a lovely afternoon just to be able to sit in, looking out over the garden and doing some sewing. I like looking at the rain from the inside. I don't like being out in the rain, and neither does the dog. That's always a challenge. So let's have a look then. This is my 6.5 inch ruler. It's bigger. I would not have guessed that. Oh my god, it does say in the book, if it's too big, cut it down. And this is the first one that I'm going to have to cut down, which is really nice because the other ones I didn't get a chance to like square up the blocks. You know, the edges are sometimes a little bit rough, aren't they? So I'm really pleased with this. Now, I said this in the last video, but this book, it is branded 100 blocks to improve your quilting confidence, and it really does. It might even be to improve your quilting skills. It starts off with simple blocks and then you gradually build up. I am so happy that I have accurately sewn this. The points pretty much match, but because they're quite pale colours, there's not too much of a contrast. I know that these blues obviously aren't directional. That's my fault for choosing that fabric. I did think that would happen, but I like the look of it. I like the look of all those triangles intersecting. And it's the correct size. It must have been a combination of the thread and the scant 1/4 inch. So not only is it the book that is helping me improve my sewing skills, it's all of the wonderful friends that I've made on YouTube. So if I haven't already, thank you so much if you left me a constructive comment on that video, giving me directions on what I can do. I really appreciate every one of you. Thank you for being part of my quilt. So let's see what other blocks we can create today and also how many leaders and enders we can get through. So far I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I guess that makes 3 blocks because I'm just going to sew them into a 4 patch. Look at the colours on this. Can you imagine that when it's done, I'm going to then hand quilt diagonally through all the pale colours. Perhaps I'll do it in a striking colour. Maybe there'll already be enough striking colour. But that would just look amazing. So let me show you all of the blocks that I've managed to sew. So I did that one. I really like the colour combination on that one. I think this one's my favourite. I think this one actually could also be my favourite. I really like that green fabric. And then this one was the first one that I did, and these are just for a recap the other blocks that I did when I've worked on it. It is now the next day and I've just finished work, and I thought I'll show you while it's nice and daylight, and I'll do a few more today I think. These are the ones that I originally sewn by hand, but just to try and prevent any hand fatigue, I'm just doing them on the machine now. But let's also have a look at the leaders and enders that I did. I couldn't believe how quickly these came together. So I've joined them in 4s, and I've just got one set of 2 left. I've got tons more fabric than this. That was just the first few pieces that I put out. So I can't believe how many I ended up doing. I'll end up sewing a few more before I join them together, because there's a few repeats and the colours are a little bit similar, so I'll wait till I've got a good variety and I can evenly disperse the colours out. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you've also purchased the book, I hope it inspires you to get the book out and do some of the blocks, because it really does grow your confidence. One thing that I will add, I forgot to mention it earlier, that I noticed last night for the first time in the book, that some of the blocks say to do a scant seam and some just say to do a 1/4 inch seam. I think someone did comment that on the original video, so thank you if you did comment it. I'm just leaving my machine at a scant seam allowance instead of keeping adjusting it, because I know what will happen. I'll sew one block and I will have forgotten to change it back, so it's a scant 1/4 inch. So I'll just leave it, and it might mean that I need to trim the blocks down a little bit more, but that's fine by me. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.